We're now going to review graphing lines. So the most important thing to remember for this is slope-intercept form y equals mx plus b. And as you hopefully know, m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. And just remember the slope is the change in y over change in x. So on our graph, remember the y goes up and down, so the change in y is going to be the amount you go up or down. The change in x is going to be the amount you go left or right. And you will determine if you go left or right or up or down based on the sign. If it's negative, if the y value is negative, you go down. If the x value is negative, you go left. And if the y value is positive, you go up. If the x value is positive, you go right. So here's an example. We're going to find the slope and y-intercept, then graph. And so in order to find the slope and the y-intercept, you have to start by getting it into slope-intercept form. We do that by moving over that x. So I'm going to write this, get into slope-intercept form. So we're going to start by moving over this x. And you can write this as y equals 3 minus x. However, you can even skip that step and just go straight to slope-intercept form, which is y equals negative x plus 3. Just make sure you keep the negative with the x and you keep the 3 positive. Now, negative x means that the slope is negative 1. Don't forget there's an invisible 1 there. And the y-intercept is going to be our 3. So now to graph that equation, we're going to start always with your y-intercept. So you start by drawing your y-intercept. And our y-axis is our vertical axis. Our x-axis is our horizontal axis. So I'm going to start by drawing my y-intercept up at y equals 3. Just going to be a dot on the y-axis. My slope, remember, you're going to use the slope for the second point. So my slope is, once again, change in y over change in x, and it is negative 1. Do not forget to make it a fraction. And remember, the change in y is the amount we go up or down. Change in x is the amount we go left or right. So in this case, we are going to go down 1 because it is negative. And we are going to go right 1 because it is positive. So I start at my blue dot up there. I'll make it darker so everyone can see it. I'm going to go down 1 and I'm going to go right 1. From there, I draw my line. And hopefully you have a ruler. Yours will hopefully look a little bit nicer than mine, but that's what it's going to look like for the most part. So the next two examples we have are a little bit different. In my personal opinion, it's easier on these to not write it in slope-intercept form and actually graph it first, knowing what you know about y equals a number and x equals a number. So if you look back at the thing that we had in the first slide or the chart on page 8, we know that y equals a number is a horizontal line. And actually, this is going to be a horizontal line at -2. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that. It's going to look like that. So based on what we know from the previous lesson with slope is that if you have a horizontal line, the slope is 0. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that if you think about it, our x and y intercept, our y-intercept is the place where we touch the y-axis, which is right here at -2. Now, for number 3, this one's a little bit trickier. I am going to still draw it first, and I know that it is a vertical line. And it will be a vertical line at x equals 3, which means it's going to look like that. So for that, my slope, remember when you have a vertical line, your slope is undefined. One of the interesting things is that the y-intercept, there actually isn't any, so you can just write none. For these next problems, we are going to write the equations of the lines. So for number 4, that is a horizontal line, and as with all horizontal lines, the way that you have the equation is always going to be as y equals a number. For this one, you can see that my y is at 5, so it's going to be y equals 5. That's all you have to do for 4. 5 is similar, except that since it's vertical, it's going to be x equals a number. In this case, it is going to be x equals whatever this point is, and it's going to be -3. Now, 6 and 7 require a little bit more work. If you can see what your y-intercept is, which in this case we can, it's a lot easier. So in this case, it looks like our y-intercept is at 5. So that's going to be helpful to us. Unfortunately, it's a little bit more complicated to find the slope. There are several ways to do it. You can either do it by counting up and over, or you can do it by using the formula that we have for slope. I will show you both ways. So the first way to do it is to count up and over. So remember, slope is rise over run. And in this case, let's say I start at this point here, this yellow point, and I end at this other point right here. In order to get from the first point to the second point, I have to go up, which is my rise, I have to go up 5. And then from there, so you can think of it as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From there, I have to go right 2, so 1, 2, so it's going to be 5 over 2. So the amount I went up was 5, the amount I went over is 2. The other way you can find your slope is by using these 2 points. The first one is 0, 5, the second one is -2, 0, and you can use the formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that would give you 5 minus 0 over 0 minus -2, which is still 5 over 2. So you can see both ways work. Choose whatever one's easier for you. In the end, we're going to put it all together in slope-intercept form. We get y equals 5 over 2x plus our y-intercept, which is 5. I want you to do number 7 on your own, please. So go ahead and pause and try it on your own. So for 7, you will find that your y-intercept, your b, which is this point down here, is going to be at -6. So then to find your slope, you can do it either of the 2 methods. If you want, this point is 0, -6. This point is -4, 0. You can use the formula. I'm actually not going to use the formula. I'm just going to count. So my rise is the amount I go up or down. To get from the point on the left, the -4, 0, to the point on the right, I start by going down 6. Since I went down, it's going to be a -6. Then I would have to go right 4. And since I went right, it's going to be a +4. So I'm going to reduce that to negative 3 over 2. In the end, my equation will be y equals negative 3 over 2x minus 6.